gentlemen, I'm back, your movie guru, with another review. This time, I am very excited to bring you a movie that I am very happy was made, and it fulfilled what I wanted from the last film. What am I talking about? I am talking about none other than The Suicide Squad. You'll recognize the name because it's very similar to Suicide Squad, which came out in 2016. And this film is a bit of a soft reboot of that one. And it still has some of the same characters. So we've got Rick Flag back. We've got Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie. And then we brought some new characters. So we've got Pete Davidson, he plays a role in this film. Idris, Elba, John Cena. So a whole new cast of characters. Like I said, it's kind of a soft reboot. No Will Smith this time. But for those of you who don't know anything about the films, The Suicide Squad is supposed to be type of kind of anti-hero superhero film, wherein there's a bunch of villains, these convicts that the government takes and says, you know, hey, if you'll do these things for us, you know, go on these very dangerous type missions. That's why it's called Suicide Squad. If you do this, you know, we'll take time off your sentence, or you'll get a pardon, or something of that nature. Now, if this is sounding very familiar to you, it's because one came out in 2016, and it wasn't really received well, and I didn't really like it either. There were parts about it that I liked, but not everything. There was a lot of mistakes that I thought it made, and I've been this critical of other DC films as well. I think that they've fallen into this. It seemed like it was really rushed together, and it seemed like one of the biggest things that there were two big things that I thought that took away from it being really good was, one, it seemed like they didn't know what direction they wanted to take. So you've got, you know, all these villains in this movie, and, you know, in that part it was serious, what they were tasked with, and the fact that, you know, some of these characters are gonna die. I mean, it's a Suicide Squad, right? It's in the name of the film. But they also tried to make it, you know, really lighthearted, and this was right around the time when a lot of the DC universe was criticized as being too serious, as opposed to, you know, a lot of the Marvel films which were a lot more fun. You know, Zack Snyder as a director got a lot of flack for this. And it was PG-13, and the way that they tried to do it, it didn't mesh together well. This film, they did a reboot of it. They got James Gunn as director. You'll recognize him from Guardians of the Galaxy films, Avengers Endgame, the Belko Experiment. And one thing I really liked about this film was he made a decision. It's not going to be for everyone, but he made the decision of what type of film he wanted to make, and then he went all out with that. And I really appreciated that, and it looks like a lot of the fans did too. He's got a 91% score by the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, and then a 83% score by the audience. He chose to make this film, you know, rated R. It's really violent, really gory, but typical in James Gunn's fashion, and you'll really know this if you've seen some of the Guardians of the Galaxy films. He still is able to interject a lot of humor into it. And so it's violent, but it's not overly serious. And the plot isn't, you know, crazy sophisticated. It's very much, hey, you know, this is a superhero film. We're not gonna make this, you know, this is not one of those superhero films where, you know, like Watchmen, where it's supposed to be very introspective and have deep allegories or, you know, anything like that. Like it does, you know, have a purpose. It does have a narrative, and it does move that along, but it makes it abundantly clear, hey, you're watching a movie with superpowered characters. So expect accordingly. So I was really happy they made that decision and they went for it. And I can say I really enjoyed the film. I saw by movies in, I could tell that this was not going to be a film for everyone. A lot of people, I think, would be turned off by just how violent it is, and some of the aspects I could see some people thinking, okay, that was a little corny, or that was a little cheesy. I know it's a superhero film, but I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people that really enjoyed it as well. Amongst my personal group of friends, I see this one was a little bit more polarizing than the critic scores or the Rotten Tomato scores, what have you think. I did have quite a few who said that they weren't with this, they couldn't get with this film, it wasn't for them. So know that going in. But if you're anything like me, if you want to be entertained, if you want a superhero film, to me this has had everything that the first one I thought got wrong. This one made up for it in spades. Lots of action, lots of comedy that didn't fall flat. Not overly serious, but not overly ridiculous either. You could still be entertained. And then the other big problem that I alluded to in the first Suicide Squad was one of the things that Marvel does well with films that have a lot of characters is fleshing the characters out and making you feel for those characters. It makes you understand them, makes you get to know them, so you're invested in what happens to them. And in the first film, I can remember distinctly, outside of Margot Robbie and Will Smith, who played, I believe it was Slade and Harley Quinn, respectively, I didn't really care for any of the other characters. They could have died, they could have lived. I was not invested in their storylines. Whether it was because the actors didn't have the cachet that Margot Robbie and Will Smith had, or whether it was a bad plot, or they weren't able to flesh out the characters how they would have wanted to. Whatever it was, it did not do a good job of making you care for the other characters. This film, I think, absolutely rectifies it. It does not very much lean and require Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn to anchor this film. And, there are long stretches of the movie, where you don't see her character, and long stretches where what the other characters do absolutely advances the plot. In fact, a lot of the film, the events that transpire in the film could not have been done, if it were just left up to Harley, it wouldn't have been completed. There's a lot of scenes where, it's the other characters advancing the plot, and, movie's end, it determines on, what they did and what they were able to accomplish, what they didn't do. That's something that you really didn't have in the first film. In the first film, it was, hey, these are the big name stars. Harley Quinn's the only one that, most casual people that don't know anything about comics are going to recognize, and we're going to lean on her heavily. This film, dare I say it, you could have taken Harley Quinn out, and I definitely think you lose something, because I think that she does a great job as usual with this character. But I think that you could take her out and introduce another character, or you could have had a Suicide Squad, without her. I feel like there could be movies in this franchise, if they continue to go forward without her, and I think that it would work. That is a very strong difference and a very strong statement coming from the first one, because the first one, 100%, without Harley Quinn, that movie doesn't work. You're not interested in it. You're not going to want to see it. And just from 2016 to this one, to be able to recognize, hey, what we did wrong, this is what we need to do to fix it. I give credit to DC. I give credit to James Gunn. I really like this direction, and much more so than I was after the first one. I would be very interested in seeing another film and seeing what other type of crazy mission that they can flesh out. Also, side note, I think John Cena does a great job in this film. I've seen a lot of his movies. I think this one might have his best performance. Not, saying that, he's a masterpiece of an actor, but for John Cena, I think that I enjoyed him in this role more so than I have in other films. I give it an 8 out of 10. I think that you will be really entertained watching this. If gory is not your thing, if violent is not your thing, if you want a completely serious plot, okay, then it's not for you. But if you just want a good time, if you like superhero movies, if you want to be entertained, go see this one, see it with a bunch of friends. I think you'll be laughing, find yourself laughing and very much entertained by what transpires. That's all I've got for this one. This one's a bit long because I had a lot to say about this one based on how much different it is than the first one. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button, please, the like button, hit the subscribe button. That really helps the channel out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.